After all, the modern historians and the ASI, for that matter, are tilted towards obscuring and distorting India's real history. Why? This being done by Europeans is understandable, but how come they do it? Indian historians do it, and the ASI does it against their own country. Good question. So it basically ties in with the question I answered just a minute ago. Uh, we know why the West does it. Western historians are driven by their Eurocentric Occidentalist uh, agenda, their Orientalist agenda to portray the East as inferior and less able than the Europeans, right? So we understand why they do it. Now, why do India's historians do this? Well, there are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, Nehru, our great, magnificent Prime Minister, Shri Jawaharlal Nehru, he wrote this history of India. It was called the Discovery of India or something like that. I have never read the book, unfortunately. I have read many books, but I have not read that book. So, in this book, Mr. Shri Nehruji describes the history of India from the very beginning to the very end, apparently. But on various occasions, he expressed his disdain for Hinduism and for Hindu temples and all that. So it was very clear what sort of cultural uh, affinities he had, right? His affinities were basically anti-Hindu, and that becomes basically anti-Indian. So the agenda of the historians under his regime was to distort the history of India and make Hinduism look bad and weak and powerless and evil and oppressive and backward and primitive and casteist and misogynistic and the rest, right? So that's what they tried to do by manipulating the history in the textbooks and portraying India's history in a certain fashion. That's number one. Now, after Sri Nehru passed away, to our eternal regret, the regimes that followed his regime continued the very same thing. And later on, unfortunately, the Marxists or the communists were put in charge of uh, India's history textbooks and the entire academic system. And the agenda of these people is very much the same. It's even more vitriolic, it's even more vicious. They essentially want to eradicate all traces of Indian culture. They will start with Hinduism. When Hinduism is gone, they'll go on to Buddhism. Eventually, they want to introduce foreign cultures into India. That is the ultimate objective, because Marxists are for sale. Okay, every Marxist has a price. They act as agents of various powers, internal, external. You can think. I mean, we all know what that is. So their agenda is to divide and destroy, and therefore they have gone even further in doing this. Today, every academic department in this country, whether it's the humanities, whether it's the IITs too, is infested with these Marxists. Even the IITs in India are full of these humanities departments, right? And these are basically Marxist snake pits. So their agenda is very simple: to divide the country on the basis of all kinds of distorted versions of history and distorted sociology, etc. And that's why they have engaged in doing this. So they have basically, after the 70s or something like that, they have written all of India's history textbooks. If you see the authors of the NCERT, etc. textbooks, most of them are Marxists. And that's why they have been distorting history. And also, you cannot be a historian in India unless you get on with this program, right? You will never be allowed to be an academic of any repute, or you will not be able to get any promotions, etc. in the academic system unless you go along with this agenda. And again, these people are given stipends and various inducements from abroad. We know that very well. Every single Indology department in the West is essentially anti-Hindu, and they give various inducements, etc., to these Indian academics. So if you get with the program, then you will get to go on foreign trips and go to travel business class and stay in 3-star or 4-star hotels in the West, etc. And you will be made to look like you are a successful academic and an eminent historian. So these are the reasons why these people have been doing this for decades. It's still happening. Nothing has been done to stop this rot. The worst thing is that even the IITs, Indian Institutes of Technology, are spending a significant amount of their budget on these humanities departments. And if you look at the professors in these humanities departments and the kind of research these people are indulging in, it's all along the same anti-India, anti-Hindu lines. So that's what's happening in this country, and we are funding that with our taxpayer money. Isn't that nice?